What the hell is up, everybody? Louis back here for UFC 66, the last event of the year. You got a fun one in the year. You got Jared Cannonier taking on Sean Strickland. Tarzan taking on the Killer Gorilla. Couldn't be a better matchup. Both guys trying to get back into title contention. The title picture is a little unclear because you have that rematch with Pierre and Israel. We'll see what happens there, but both guys really need to win here to stay in the title picture at all. And then you got a rock-solid co-main event with two up-and-comers. Arman Sarukian taking on Damir Ismagulov at 155. A lot of people think Arman won his last fight, and they're both just trying to get into title talks. They're still a couple fights away, but they want to be in that public sphere and be in talks for title contention a year or two down the road. And then also you got the banger of all bangers, 155, Drew Dober taking on Bobby King Green. The Crimson Chin taking on the Joker. I mean, it should be a fun one. All right. And then last weekend, didn't do so great, but I'm over it. It's the last card of the year, so we got to win this one. Let's get right into it. First fight of the night, 135 pounds, men's bantamweight. Sergey Morozov taking on Journey Newson. Morozov took on Rowling Paiva his last fight. In the first round, he gets rocked the lead hook while he's sliding in, but then he backs up, throws some lead hooks, but then eats a flurry on the fence, and he kind of just circles away, doesn't want to take any shots. But then he's able to land a counter left hook off of Paiva's 1-2. But then in the second round, he's kind of in and out, and he throws some lead hooks, and he gets the double leg takedown whenever he gets pressed, and he's able to take the back, and then he's able to keep the back standing against the fence. Doesn't do a whole lot, but he's able to maintain control, try to win the round. Then in the third round, he lands some left hooks and then some straight rights. He's able to get the double leg again, and then lands a cross on the break. Pretty sneaky of him. Then he circles on the outside. He looks to come in with some jabs. He's able to slip the overhand, shoots multiple times, but then they get stuffed, kind of desperate at that point. And then Jordan Newson took on Fernie Garcia his last fight. In the first round, he rushes into some hooks, but then he circles out. He walks through shots to the double, but he's not able to hold him down very long. And then he kind of eats some hooks while he's circling away. And then in the second round, he lands overhand right and then a left hook, but then he eats a hook as a counter. He lands some teeps and some head kicks, and he keeps range, but he rushes with the overhand right and then a left hook, which rocks him. And then he eats a right hook when he's loading up and kind of just dips his head down and gets hit. Then in the third round, he feints a jab and then shoots a blast double. He's able to get around his back, and then he rocks him with the overhand right at range, and then he lands a spinning back kick at the end to polish it off. Journey Newson plus 250, Sergey Morozov minus 300. Jordan Newson, a little weathered. Sergey Morozov, I just think he has the superior wrestling. I don't really like the price tag, but it's two kind of lower level guys at 135. Sergey has the longevity. I think Journey is going to come out hard in the first round, throw some kicks, try to keep him at range. But I think Sergey is going to be able to close in and clinch him up, take him down, and kind of win the decision. So I'm going to go with Sergey Morozov here. I don't like the price, but it's first fight of the night, so. And then at 125 pounds, men's flyweight, you got David Dvorak taking on Manel Starboy Cap. Should be a fun one. Been long awaiting his return. Dvorak took on Mateus Nicolau his last fight. Pretty good competition. In the first round, he pressures toward the cage, but he misses with the overhand. Then he gets clipped with the hook. But then he lands a step-in uppercut and a striking exchange. And then he lands a lead right hook. But then he eats a counter hook off of his lead uppercut when he's coming in. And then the second round, he lands a right uppercut and a hook, and he's able to circle outside. But he eats a right hook off of his overhand. He's a little too overextended at this point. But then he gets dropped with the lead left hook whenever he's coming into him. And then in the third round, he walks into some left hooks, gets rocks from there, just kind of, walks right in, hands down. He starts walking down, and he starts kind of winging some hooks, but he misses, but he's able to land a left and right hook, and then a knee follow-up. But then he stuffs a double, and he's able to get on top and lands a ground and pound to end the fight, so he finished it off pretty well. And then Manel Kape took on Zhalgas Zhumagulov his last fight. In the first round, he gets walked down, eats a cross and a body shot, and then he gets rocked with the right cross, and then he just kind of circles outside with his hands down. Don't know why he's doing that, but he's got to watch that. A little bit of showmanship, I guess. But then he starts landing some jabs, and he ducks the overhands, and he kind of circles away. Then he lands a knee to the body, and then a straight right away. But then he backs out of an advance from Zhalgas, and he drops him with the straight right, lands a 1-2, and then an uppercut. And then he swarms him with hooks, gets a TKO, smelled blood in the water, finally went for it. That was one of the knocks on Manel. Just not doing much, but he picked his spot, and he took advantage of it. Manel minus 245, David Dvorak plus 205. I'm kind of going back and forth on this one. Manel, his inactivity has been a problem. But Zhalgas isn't really a guy that you knock out. And he was able to, Zhalgas has been around the block. And I think Manel's finally starting to come into his own. He's about 28. First couple fights of promotion. Didn't really do much. I'm going to get, yeah, I don't know. I don't like this price, but I just have a feeling Manel's going to get the victory. Dvorak, like, rushes people a lot. He rushed Mateos a lot. And I think Manel's going to crack him. I think he's going to piece him up. I don't know if he gets a knockout. I see Manel winning either a decision, piecing him up every round, or getting a knockout / TKO. And then it's a flyweight fight, under 2.5 plus 110. That KO by Manel is live, so I like that. I'm going to go with Manel here, and then under 2.5. All right, third fight of the night, 170 pounds, men's welterweight. You got Brian Pubera battle taking on Renat Fakhretdinov. I hope I said that right. Brian, this is his second fight down to 170. He was at 185 for the Ultimate Fighter, and his last fight against Takashi Sato looked amazing. His first fight at 170. Not much to talk about. He just circles back, lands a head kick at range, gets a KO. But before that, he took on Tresean Gore. This was still up at 185, though. In the first round, he skirts the fence, pumps some body kicks, but then he eats a jab at range. But then he lands a teep and then a leg kick. Over here right, and then a left cross, really nice combination, and he cuts him off on the cage, but then eats a hook. Then he lands 2 jabs and then a right hook over top of Tresean's guard. Then he eats a hook to the body, a left-right hook on the fence. But he was doing good, keeping the distance, and not letting Tresean take him down. At least in this round, I mean, he got taken down later on in the fight. He was able to get up, but I thought it was pretty good. And then at 170, like, I have reservations about guys cutting down a weight. He looks really good at 170. He looks bigger. He looks faster. So for him, which is unusual, but I mean, he looks, he just looks good at 170. And then Renat Fakhretdinov took on Andreas Michailidis his last fight. In the first round, he presses with some jabs, gets a double leg off the fence, then a mat return, takes his back, rear naked choke attempt. No hooks in, though. Then he's back on the feet, just kind of starts slinging some odd hooks for some reason, but then he lands a clinch and then some knees to the body, but then his single attempt gets stuffed. Then in the second round, he lands a lead hook, gets a double off the fence. Immediately after the bell rings, he's in a full guard, and he keeps the position, grabs wrist, not a ton of ground and pound at this point. Then in the third round, his double leg gets stuffed, but then he stops his single, and he goes behind in a half guard, lands some ground and pound with some nasty elbows, grabs a cross wrist, finishes the fight off very strong, and that cross wrist is what's important. It's going to keep his position. Renat minus 145, Brian plus 125. I like Brian battle, but I just think Renat's wrestling is a little too much. I think Brian might be able to crack him with some shots, and Brian has decent takedown defense. I don't think he's going to accept the bottom position, but I just think Renat, he's going to eat up some clock on the bottom, and I think he's going to have too much control time when this fight's over, and Brian's going to do too little too late. So I'm going to go with Renat Fakhretdinov, minus 145, not a bad line. Fourth fight of the night, 155 pounds, men's light heavyweight. You got Rafa Garcia taking on Haisar Mashatate, newcomer. So we'll see how this goes. Rafa Garcia, tough veteran. He took on Drakkar Klose his last fight. In the first round, he eats the knee to the body, but then he gets clenched. Then he lands a step-in, some step-in lead left hooks, but then he eats a cross. But then he stuffs a double on the fence, lands some nice elbows there in defense. But then he gets passed by into the clinch, and he goes up his back standing. Then he gets drugged down to the mat at the end. In the second round, he gets clenched right away, but the fence, he's able to circle out of there. And then he comes in for his overhands, and he ducks a straight shot from him, and he shoots a blast double into half guard, very beautifully timed. Then he eats a lead uppercut, and he gets swarmed, but he's able to clinch and not take any damage. And then in the third round, he eats a knee to the body and a jab when he gets pressed. But then he shoots a double off of his hook, but he's not able to really hold him down much. But then he backs up and lands a lead hook, but then eats a cross, and they both kind of land uppercuts in a clinch. But then he lands a jab when he's circling backwards, and his double attempt gets stuffed, but then he eats some uppercuts to the body and then knees in the clinch. But it looks pretty good, but Drakkar Klose just had like a clinch-heavy game plan. And then Haisar Mashatate took on Steve Garcia his last fight. In the first round, he circles outside, lands a right cross and a jump knee, and then a cross, but then he eats some counter hooks, and he just kind of backs away. But then he drops him with the short right whenever he gets rushed. But then he gets clinched, and then he starts eating some punches inside the clinch. But then he lands a step-back right cross and KO whenever he gets rushed. So it's just kind of like a one-shot knockout type of deal. And looks pretty good. But then he took on Achilles Estremendora his last fight. Before that, in the Contender Series. In the first round, he gets rushed, he eats some hooks, but then he lands a cross, and he's able to circle out of range. But then he gets pressed back, and he gets dropped with the left hook, but then he's able to get the clinch. But then he lands a step back right cross, but then he eats a hook flurry. But that fight was like a 3-round war, so. Haisar plus 115, Rafa Garcia minus 135. I'm going to go with Rafa Garcia here. Line's relatively close. Tough veteran. Haisar can land those crazy shots. I think Rafa's got a decent chin. I think Rafa's going to keep the pressure on him. Highstar might land something crazy. That could always happen. But I just see Rafa, like, walking him down, clinching him up, beating him up to the body, getting those takedowns when he needs them. Not really a tough one for me. The whole fight to go under 2.5 plus 155. Highstar can go 3 rounds, but most of his fights don't go 3 rounds. And then I think Rafa Garcia is going to keep that pressure on him. I like that bet. I'm going to go with Rafa Garcia here. All right. Next up at 135 pounds, men's bantamweight, you got Said Nurmagomedov taking on Saidyokub Kakhramonov. Should be fun. Said took on Douglas Silva de Andrade his last fight. In the first round, he throws a back kick and he gets clinched to the fence. Then he lands a wheel kick to the body. In the second round, he lands a lunge 1-2, but then he gets pressed with the hook. But then he lands a jump knee, throws a 1-2, kind of wild. But then he grabs a leg, then he lands a straight right, but he's not able to get the double. But then he lands a knee and then a 1-2 off the attempt. But then he gets dropped by a back fist right at the end there. So I didn't like that at all, really. Then in the third round, he misses the back fist, then he gets mat returned. Bad decision from him. Then he shoots a snatch single whenever he gets pressed, but he's not able to hold him down very long. But then he lands a head kick and shoots a double to the fence. But then he eats a body shot, and then he lands a head kick and a cross inside the pocket. But then he misses with the back fist and just kind of lays on his back. It's stupid, especially if you're down in the fight. But then his double gets stopped, and then he lands 2 head kicks at the end there. So take that for what you will. Saidyokub Kakhramonov took on Ronnie Lawrence his last fight. I thought this was a good win. In the first round, he lands a 1-2 from range. He defends the trip attempt, and he gets the mat return off of a guillotine attempt, and he works in half guard, and he keeps him down, and he's able to get the trip, keep him down. Then he gets the underhook, and then he gets a single off of whenever Ronnie Lawrence throws a knee. And then in the second round, he stalks up the overhand right, but then he eats a counter uppercut. Remember, he's kind of lunging forward a little too much. But then he catches the kick to the double inside a half guard, and then he uses the arm triangle position to maintain position. And then he tries to go for his back, but then Lawrence is able to get a trip takedown. Whenever he keeps the whizzer, and then he gets right back up. So, but at least he didn't like get reversed or anything. But you know, Lawrence is a pretty good wrestler. Then in the third round, he gets a double from space, but he takes his back, grabs a cross wrist, and then he mat returns him. Then he's in a full guard, but doesn't do a ton of ground and pound. So not a ton of activity really from either guy on the ground. Saidyokub minus 120 and Said plus 100. I'm going to go Saidyokub. Line's basically even. I like his wrestling a lot more, and I think Said makes some bad decisions, especially with the spinning back fist. I think if he does that, Saidyokub is just going to take him right down. I think his top pressure is going to be a lot, you know, Said decent at getting back to his feet, but I don't know. I'm just going to go with the stronger wrestler here, you know. We'll see. It's a tough one. It's a coin flip. I'm going to go Saidyokub. It's just something about him I liked. And the line's not really different enough to go with the underdog. Like plus 100, minus 120 versus minus 120, not really a big deal. All right, the co-main event of the prelims at 170 pounds, men's welterweight. You got Jake Matthews taking on Matt Semelsberger. Jake Matthews coming off of that amazing performance against Andre Fiallo. In the first round, he lands a step-back right hook, step-in jab, and then a lunge right, and then an overhand, then he kind of steps off to the side. He slips his jab, then he lands a left hook to the body, and then a right hook to the head. Then he lands some left hooks in a firefight. He's able to slip the straight shots of Fiallo. Then in the second round, he slips the punch, lands a left hook, and then he rocks him. And then he lands a lead right hook, and then a right uppercut all in succession. Then he eats a 1-2, but he rocks him with the right over top of his jab, and he lands a left hook off of his hook, and then an overhand right, and then a cross, and he gets a knockout. Just a beautiful combination, and not really pressuring too much, kind of letting Fiallo come into him and just had precise striking and got the job done. And then Matt Semelsberger took on Alex Morono his last fight. In the first round, he lands lead up hook, but he walks into overhand. Then he eats an overhand off of his jab. Then he eats a left hook off of his cross. But then he gets in the clinch, but he eats some elbows, and he can't really do much from that point. Just kind of clinches him up. Then in the second round, he chases and he looks for the cross, but he's like too short. Morono's doing a good job of circling. Then he eats some jabs off of his cross attempt. But then he lands a stiff jab. And then he gets ducked, and he lands a stiff jab, but then he gets ducked, and he eats an uppercut and some hooks. And then they're in a clinch battle, and he's able to stop the trip attempt, and he gets on top, and he starts landing some elbows. Don't know why he didn't go to it sooner, though. Then in the third round, he rushes with the overhand, drops him with the jump knee, almost had him out of there, but then he lands another jump knee, and then he rips the body inside the clinch, and then he stalks somebody, eats some jabs off of his crosses. And he had a moment there to get Morono out of there. couldn't take advantage of it, but Morono's very tough. Matt Summelsberger plus 240, Jake Matthews minus 285. I think Matthews is a little overpriced here, but I just don't see Summelsberger definitely not winning on the feet. I see Matthews piecing him up. Can Summelsberger take him down? I don't know why he didn't take Morono down earlier. Jake Matthews coming off that ton of momentum here. I think that plays a big part. Matt Summelsberger took some damage in that Morono fight. His eye swelled up. And if Matthews is, Matthews is precise as he is, I think he can do something similar and hurt him early on in the fight. I'm going to go with Jake Matthews here. But Jake Matthews by KO plus 350, but it sounds a little too good to be true for me. So Jake Matthews by decision plus 140. I can see him just piecing him up all 3 rounds. Maybe he gets taken down in a round or 2, but I think he wins the majority of the fight. I'm going to go Jake Matthews here. All right. The main event of the prelims at 115 pounds. Cheyenne Velismus taking on Corey McKenna. Women's straw weight here. Cheyenne Velismus coming off about a year layoff. People waiting for her to come back. Her last fight against Mallory Martin. In the first round, she landed a jab in her right cross, and then she circles out. And then she eats a step-in hook while she's circling. But then she lands a lunge overhand, but then she eats a 1-2. But then she lands some step-in straight rights. And then she lands a 1-2 body kick. And then she lands some nice uppercuts in the clinch to end the round. Then in the second round, she's in and out with some jabs. And then an overhand and then a body kick. And then she lands a counter straight right off of her jab. And then she stuffs the double. And then she's able to get the body lock stuffs the double. And then the body lock attempt, she keeps the whizzer. Really important for that takedown defense, especially against Corey McKenna. And then in the third round, she stuffs the double on the fence, but then she lands some jabs at range. But then she lands a step-in hook, but she gets ducked, and then she gets clinched to the fence. But then she's able to break out of there relatively easily, and then she lands a 1-2 counter off of her jab. And then Corey McKenna took on Miranda Granger her last fight. In the first round, she lands a left hook to the body, and then she's able to go to the clinch from there, but then she gets a double off the fence in a half guard, lands a decent ground and pound, and then she goes for the arm triangle at the end of the round. I like seeing that type of stuff. Then in the second round, she gets a double off the fence just right away, like immediately. She knew it worked, so she went right to it, and then she's able to get the Von Flue choke because Miranda Granger has her elbow over her head, and just kind of a rookie mistake, but Corey McKenna was able to take advantage of it and get the finish, and that's a big deal. Corey McKenna plus 160, Cheyenne Velismus minus 190. I'm going to go with Corey McKenna here. First of all, lower-level women's fight. Cheyenne Velismus, big prospect. We've seen those get busted before. Corey McKenna, young, but I mean, she's going to improve every fight, you would think. The line's off, plus 160. Corey McKenna has decent wrestling. Cheyenne Velismus, the better striker of the two. But if Corey McKenna can get inside and tie her up, possibly get her to the ground and beat her up. And then Cheyenne Velismus fell for that headlock a couple fights ago. You know, I think Corey McKenna can get it done. I like the dog money. I'm going to go with Corey McKenna. First fight on the main card at 185 pounds. Men's middleweight guy Cody Brundage taking on Michael Oleksiejczuk. Both guys trying to make a name for themselves. Michael Oleksiejczuk coming off a big knockout victory. And Cody Brundage, couple surprise victories, I guess. Kind of trying to prove he's legit. Cody Brundage took on Trayshawn Gore his last fight. In the first round, he lands a back elbow and then gets a double off the fence. Gets her on his back standing. He eats some jabs, but then he lands an overhand right. But then he gets pressed back with some jabs and leg kicks from Trayshawn. But then he drops him with the right hook off of his leg kick. Jumps in a full mount. Ground and pound. Knockout. Not TKO. Knockout. Dude's got power on the ground. Yeah. And Michael Oleksiejczuk took on Sam Alvey his last fight at 205. Not much to talk about. First round, rushes him, blocks him with some left crosses, drops him with the lead left hook, lands some ground and pound, tries to go for the crucifix. He stuffs a double attempt, and then he lands a left cross, knocks him the fuck out. Kind of expected, but, you know, at least he did knock him out. And then he took on Dustin Jacoby before this. In the first round, he lands a left hook over the jab, left to the body, and then a 1-2. Catches a leg kick, gets to his back, but he's not able to hold him. And then he circles on the outside, looks for a hook to the body and an overhand left, but then he gets pressured back, and then he lands a left hook to the body, and then he lands a 1-2 down the pipe. And that went 3 rounds, and, you know, Jacoby's kind of outpointed him. But Michael Oleksiejczuk minus 275, Cody Brundage plus 230. I just don't think Cody Brundage can put 3 rounds together. I really like this price. I think it's a little off. I just don't see Brundage like winning 3 rounds. But Oleksiejczuk can go 3 rounds. And he hits pretty hard too. Brundage does too. but he kind of has to get him on the ground. And then his last win against Logan Bola, he was getting his ass beat and then jumped the guillotine. Great win for him. But I don't know. I think there's like Cody Brundage kind of seems like he needs a big moment to get the victory, but I think Owen Jacek can outstrike him all 3 rounds. As far as the wrestling goes, I don't know if anybody's going to be able to get anybody down. I guess I'd give a little wrestling advantage to Brundage, but I don't think he's going to be able to take Owen Jacek down. I don't think Owen Jacek's going to let him in. I'm going to go with Owen Jacek here. Might be wrong, and I'll kick myself. But the whole fight to go under 1.5, minus 130. Cody Brundage either ends fights early. Yeah, he ends fights early, so I don't know. I kind of like that one. Maybe he'll get ended early. Who knows? But I like Michael Owen Jacek here, and then under 1.5. Second fight of the main card at 155 pounds. You got Drew Dober, the Crimson Chin, taking on Bobby King Green, a.k.a. the Joker. This is the banger of all bangers. I guess both guys kind of want to make like one final run or get ranked. So this is the fight to do that, and I'm very excited because it's going to be nonstop violence. Dober took on Rafael Alves his last fight. In the first round, he lands a head kick and then a straight left. He rushes the clinch, but then he gets pushed over the top with a top guillotine, but then he holds him in full guard. Just minimizes the damage. Back on the feet, he cuts him off in the cage, and he looks for a straight left, but he misses. And then in the second round, he lands a body kick on the fence, then a straight left. And he pressures him to the fence. He lands multiple straight lefts into the clinch, but then he eats a knee. Then he presses forward, but then he eats a head kick. But then he lands a right hook in a firefight on the fence, but he misses a combination, but then he lands a nice body kick to end the round. Then in the third round, he eats a hook off of a step-in left, but then he defends the single leg very nicely. Then he lands a 1-2, rips to the body, and then he feints the uppercut, and then he lands a left hook to the body, and it's a delayed KO reaction. Very nasty. But in this fight, Dober ate a monstrous left hook from Alves. And, how many more of those can he eat? I know Bobby Green's not a power puncher, but you just never know. And then Bobby Green took on Nasrat Haqparast last fight. I mean, he took on Islam, but that doesn't count. In the first round, he stalks and he pops his jab and he backs out of the straight shots of Nasrat. But then he gets pressed with some hooks, but he's able to roll with most of them. Doesn't take barely any damage at all. Jab, jab, left cross at range. Then in the second round, he gets pressed with some straights, but then he's landing his jab the whole time. And he jabs to the body in the head. And then he walks into a left cross, but then he backs out, pumps some more jabs, but then he eats overhand left when he's checking the kick, but then he lands some 1-2s, and then he kind of rolls with the overhand, doesn't take damage. Then in the third round, he backs up and he lands some jabs and some 1-2s, then he rolls with the hooks and overhands. The fight looks similar over all 3 rounds. Bobby Green plus 130, Drew Dober minus 150. I'm going to give the advantage to Bobby Green here. Decent underdog for a fight like this kind of close where you have a lot of questions. Drew Dober obviously the harder hit out of the 2. Drew Dober's not going to take Bobby Green down. Can Bobby Green take Drew Dober down? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they'll just choose to have a stand-up battle. I think, Dober winds up a lot. I think that leaves a lot of countering opportunities for Bobby Green. Bobby Green rolls with all of his punches. But if Dober cracks him, that could be trouble. But Bobby Green shown a decent chin up to this point. And closely contested fight. You just got to go with Bobby Green. Has the wrestling advantage. Plus 130. I'm going to go with Bobby Green here. We'll see what happens, but should be fun either way. Third fight of the main card at 145 pounds. Men's featherweight. You got Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres taking on Julian Juicy J. Erosa. Interesting. Julian coming off a huge victory off of Hakeem. He was a big underdog. Caceres took on Sadiq Youssef his last fight. In the first round, he gets a body lock trip whenever he gets pressed, but he can't hold him down very long. But then his body kick is caught whenever he gets pressed, and he gets taken down off of there. But he swings wild, and he gets cut off on the cage, and then his back gets taken standing. And then he gets body locked off of a step and hook at the end of the round. But then in the second round, he gets overhand when he's circling the fence. Then he lands overhand left whenever he gets pressed, and he kind of sticks a move, circles out. But then he eats some leg kicks when he's just kind of standing there at range. Then in the third round, he backs up and he lands straight left. But then he lands a jab, then a left cross, and then a head kick 1-2 combination, and then some uppercuts to the body, really nice. But then he eats inside leg kicks at range, and he tries to go for the body lock and getting a little desperate at that point. But, looked pretty good. But, Sadiq not going to do more than he has to, really. And then Julian Erosa took on Hakeem Dawodu his last fight. In the first round, he eats a jab off of his hook, but then he lands some uppercuts in the clinch, drops him with the 1-2, but then he eats a cross, but then he lands some wind-up uppercuts, but then he rocks him with the straight right off of his hook. Then in the second round, he eats an uppercut in the clinch, and then a double jab at range. Then he's able to slip the cross, and he gets a body lock to a backpack position, and he pulls him down with the figure 4 and has him there for the rest of the round. It was just beautiful. And then in the third round, he backs up and he lands an uppercut whenever he gets pressed. Then he gets pressed and eats a left hook to the body, but he's able to land a combination and then an uppercut. And then he's able to land the right cross, standing inside the pocket, and lands an uppercut and then a knee to the head. And then he backs out of the hook range, and then he feints some jabs, and he gets a blast double to figure 4 to end the fight, and couldn't end a fight any better than that. So, Julian Erosa minus 170, Alex Caceres plus 145. Yeah, I mean, Erosa kind of on a hot streak. Caceres kind of was, but he wasn't fighting the best competition. Both pretty good grapplers. I think Julian Erosa has a striking advantage. And I think he can, I don't know, but like Caceres against, sorry, forget the name, but he was Sung Choi. He was able to, he did the same thing. He slipped a punch and got on his back. So, I don't know, maybe they're kind of equal. I think Julian Erosa has more power, and I just see him being able to get to those clinch positions, being able to take the back if anybody takes it back. And, yeah, I just like the power. It's a pretty close to contested fight. The line's, like, a little off maybe, but I like Julian Erosa here. I think the power's going to make the difference. I'm going to go with GCJ. The feature fight of the night at 125 pounds men's flyweight. You got Amir Albazi taking on Alessandro Costa. Newcomer, coming off the Contender Series, had a fight after that, but first UFC fight. Amir Albazi took on Francisco Figueiredo, his last fight. In the first round, he pressures. He's able to catch the kick, gets the takedown into full guard. He's trying to pass, and he's trying to pass into half guard, but he lands some heavy ground and pound from full guard, stands up, gets the leverage, lands some nasty elbows, but then back on the feet, they're in an over-under battle, but his inside trip is defended, but then he gets a body lock trip, and then he defends the leg lock, and then he gets the figure 4 around the back, ready to choke submission, and, pretty good scramble ability. Alessandro Costa took on Andreas Luna his last fight. In the first round, he eats a body kick at range, but then he lands a 1-2 whenever he gets pressed, but then he eats a front kick, but lands a hook over top of his jab. In the second round, he lands a lunge straight and a hook, which his hook misses, but then he walks into some front kicks. But then he walks him down and he drops him with the right hook. Goes right into side control, but then he gets swept. But he wraps around the leg and he grabs a knee with he gets swept with kind of like an elevator. He wraps his leg around his knee and then just elevates and bridges over. Then in the third round, he lands an inside low kick, but then he presses, throws some hooks, then he stops the shot and he lands a cross, and then he lands a right hook off of the leg kick. And, pretty good showing from him. Alessandro Costa plus 320, Amir Albazi minus 390. Yeah, I just don't know. I think Amir Albazi is going to be able to take him down. Alexander Costa can land one big shot, but that's all he can land. I feel like one of these big underdogs has to hit on this card. This might be it, but I just don't like what I saw out of Alexander Costa. Yeah, I don't know. I feel stupid to bet on him, but I kind of feel stupid betting on Amir Albazi at minus 390. But I don't know. I think Albazi's going to be able to take him down. Costa, if he can get some defense, show defense over the course of 3 rounds, he might be able to land something big. But I'm just going to go with Amir Albazi here. I don't know. I'm screwed either way. You want to go under 2.5, though, minus 145. Flyweight under always hits. So I'm going to go with Amir Albazi, whatever. I don't know. The co-main event of the evening at 155 pounds, men's lightweight. You got Arman Tsarukyan taking on Demiraz Magulov. This is a fun one. Both guys, they don't need to win, but if they want to be taken seriously as serious contenders, they need to win. Tsarukyan coming off that tough, controversial loss against Gamrot, and Demir coming off a controversial win, I guess, over Garam Kutaladze. So they both kind of need to win to legitimize themselves, but I'm here for it. It should be fun. Lots of scrambles. Tsarukyan took on Mateus Gamrot his last fight. In the first round, he lands a double whenever he gets pressed, but he gets stuffed, but then he defends a single, and he catches a kick, and then he lands an overhand, and he gets a takedown, but then he gets reversed with the Granby. Tough luck. But then he lands a body kick at range. Then in the second round, he lands a head kick at range, and then a check hook off of his jab. Then he lands a step-in body kick, and then he shoots a blast double. He's able to stuff, but he gets stuffed with a whizzer, but then he hurts him with a body kick in the pocket. Then in the third round, he lands a step-in short right, and he kicks out of a single leg attempt. But then he gets doubled from space, but then he gets right back up, but he gives up his back standing, then he kind of gets drugged down, but then he's able to break free, lands a spin kick to the body, and then like every 4 and 5 rounds he kind of gets taken down a little more, but it's only a 3-round fight. So Damir Ismagulov took on Garam Kutteladze his last fight. Closely contested. In the first round, he eats a hook to the body while he's circling, but then he lands a jab, and he gets double unders, but tries to go for a trip, but he gets stuffed, but then he eats an elbow and some hooks to the body in the clinch, and he kind of retreats. Then in the second round, he bounces in and out, and he pumps his jab, and he looks for a cross, and he's able to stuff the double leg, but then he eats a 1-2 while he's circling, and then a left hook and a leg kick, but then he's able to stuff the double attempt, but then he presses forward, and he starts landing his jabs. Then in the third round, he lands a jab and a 1-2 to the body, and then an uppercut, 1-2, and then a body uppercut to the body, but then he shoots off of his knee, but then he gets stuffed, but then he lands a right cross and a left hook standing at range, but then he's like shoots like a high crotch, goes for the crackdown, but then he kind of gets pancaked from that position, so tough one for him. And then there's like that weird knee to the head that really wasn't a knee to the head, and they stood him up, so who knows what would have happened after that, but you know, good performance from him overall. Garam is very tough. Damir Ismagulov plus 160, Arman Tsarukyan minus 190. I'm going to go with Damir here just because both guys have similar skill sets, both talented wrestlers. And I think it's going to come down to the striking. I think Damir might be a little more precise. I don't know, though. That's why I'm going to go with the underdog, dude. It could go either way, in my opinion. It's more of like a narrative type of thing. Like Arman Tsarukyan feels like he got robbed, so he's definitely going to win this one. Everybody thinks he's going to win, and he doesn't. And I don't think he should be a minus 190 here, so I'm going to go with Damir Ismagulov for the underdog play. The main event of the evening at 185 pounds, men's middleweight, you got Jared, the Killer Gorilla Cannonier, taking on Sean Tarzan Strickland. And yeah, both guys really need a win here. Both guys in a title fight. Jared lost to Izzy, and Sean lost to Piera. So depending on how that title fight goes, either guy, whoever wins, is going to get another chance at the title, but they definitely need to win here regardless of what happens. Should be fun. Sean Strickland, more of a technical striker, kind of likes to drag fights on, and Jared Cannonier likes to knock people the fuck out. So, should be fun. I'm excited. Jared Cannonier took on Israel Adesanya his last fight. In the first round, he pressures and he throws some crosses and jabs, but they're a little too short. But then he eats a jab at range. Then in the second round, he eats a head kick when he's just kind of standing at range. But then he eats a jab down the middle from Izzy. But then he walks into a 1-2, but he fires back with a lunge straight right, but it's too short. Izzy could see it coming a mile away, unfortunately. But then he throws the right hook off of a jab, but he misses, and he eats a 1-2 and then a head kick from Izzy. Then in the third round, he lands a right hook over top of Izzy's jab, but then he eats a jab, and he shoots a single to the body lock, but he's not able to finish. And then he eats a jab on the break, and then kind of backs away. He fakes a single, and then left and right hooks, and then clinch. Those land from him. He just kind of rushes them. Really good success there. Then he lands a straight right to the clinch, and then he has double unders, but doesn't do a whole lot from that position. And then rounds 4 and 5. Kind of the same thing, you know, it wasn't really an eventful fight. Then Sean Strickland took on Alex Pereira, his last fight, obviously. In the first round, he stalks forward, but then he backs out of strikes, and he lands some teeps, and he looking for his jabs, but can't really get in range. But then he walks into a 1-2, and then kind of backs out. And then he goes to parry the body jab from Pereira. He got hit with one right before, but then he gets knocked the fuck out with a left hook from hell, and yeah. But Strickland didn't have a good game plan. Didn't ever plan on wrestling, I guess, and just kind of marched straight forward, so I don't know what he was thinking. And then before that, he took on Jack Hermanson. Not really an eventful fight. Every round kind of looked the same. In the first round, he pumps a jab at range, but then he stuffs a double on the fence, but then he walks into a jab, but then he circles off, and then he lands a jab, starts adding his right cross into the mix, and he'll develop that throughout the fight. But yeah, just pretty much jabbed them up, for, you know, if you want to sum it up. But, you know, good win, I guess. Hermanson's tough, so. Sean Strickland minus 110 and Jared Cannonier minus 110. Flip a coin. I'm going to go Jared Cannonier here. I've been thinking about it. Sean Strickland just got knocked out. And Cannonier, that's his only way to win. I think after the Izzy fight, I think he's upset with himself and he wants to do more in the fight. And, you know, I'm assuming Strickland's going to change his game plan, but maybe he won't. And Cannonier has 5 rounds to find one big shot. It's kind of a simplistic view, but that's basically what we're looking at here. And then we just saw Izzy fight a very good fight over 5 rounds, get knocked out in the 5th round. Sean Strickland has to keep that pace for 5 rounds. Can't get touched, really. Because if Jared touches you, I mean, you're probably going out. So I'm going to go with Jared here. Will wrestling be a factor? I don't really think so, but I think Jared will add in some clinch work. I think he'll land some shots inside the clinch. And, you know, I just think Sean's just going to just jab and do what he's been doing. So I think hopefully Jared will make some changes, but it's a coin flip, so it can't really feel too bad either way. But I'm going to go with Cannonier here. The whole fight to go under 4.5 rounds, plus 105. I like that too. All right, everyone. Thanks for rocking with me. I appreciate it. Not been a great year, but I've had a lot of fun, learned a lot of things. Thanks for watching, for supporting me. Check the Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all that stuff down below in the description. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know how you're doing. Give me some advice. Clearly, I need some. Let's see some upsets. Let's see some violence. And let's see some profits. Good luck, everyone.